The scent of pine needles and cinnamon hung heavy in the air. Christmas carols played softly on the radio, their cheerful melodies a stark contrast to the growing unease creeping up my spine. The twinkling fairy lights cast dancing shadows on the walls, but they did little to illuminate the strange feelings settling over me. My family and I had spent the afternoon decorating, carefully hanging each bauble and draping shimmering tinsel across the branches. Little did I know this sense of security was about to shatter, replaced by a chilling fear that would seep into the very marrow of my bones. As the evening deepened, the sky outside transitioned from a dusky blue to an inky black. The Christmas lights twinkled brightly against the darkening windows, reflecting off the polished ornaments hanging on the tree. I found myself drawn to the window, mesmerized by the contrast between the warmth and light inside and the growing darkness outside. Snowflakes swirled gently, illuminated by the streetlights, creating a serene scene. Yet this time, a shiver ran down my spine, a prickle of unease that I couldn't quite place. I turned away from the window, attempting to shake off the unsettling feeling. The sound of laughter from the living room, where my family was still gathered, helped to ground me, reminding me that I was not alone. As I re-entered the living room, the Christmas lights seemed to flicker, casting strange shadows that danced across the walls. I told myself it was just a temporary power surge, a common occurrence during the holidays, but a seed of doubt had been planted in my mind. The air, once warm and inviting, now felt thick and heavy, as if a weight had settled upon the room. I settled back onto the couch, picking up a book in a vain attempt to distract myself. The words swam before my eyes, the festive tale failing to hold my attention. My gaze kept drifting towards the hallway, drawn by an inexplicable pull. The shadows there seemed deeper, more pronounced than before, stretching and receding in the flickering light of the Christmas tree. A flicker of movement at the edge of my vision made me jump. I turned my head sharply, but there was nothing there. Just the empty hallway, shadows dancing on the walls. The silence in the house became oppressive, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Each tick seemed to reverberate through my bones, amplifying the growing sense of dread in the pit of my stomach. Then, I heard it. A faint scratching sound coming from upstairs. It was a soft, almost imperceptible noise, but it was enough to send a wave of goosebumps erupting over my skin. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath catching in my throat. The logical part of my mind tried to rationalize the sound, attributing it to loose pipes or the wind, but deep down a primal fear whispered a different explanation. Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the living room, chilling me to the bone. I shivered, pulling my sweater tighter around myself. The fireplace was blazing merrily, radiating heat throughout the room, yet the air remained strangely frigid. It felt like an icy hand had reached out from the shadows, its touch sending a shiver down my spine. I glanced at the thermostat, confirming that the heating was indeed on. The temperature reading was normal, yet the room felt like an icebox. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, a primal instinct warning me of danger. My breath hitched in my throat. This box, this thing, was completely alien to our Christmas decorations. It emanated an aura of wrongness, of intrusion, like a crow landing on a Christmas tree. Hesitantly, I reached out, my fingers brushing against the smooth, polished wood. It was ice cold, as if pulled from a snowdrift just moments ago. Unfolding the paper, my hands trembled, the thin sheet crinkling like dry leaves. Scrawled across it in elegant, almost calligraphic handwriting were 3 words: "Open it." Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. I needed to find my family, to break free from the suffocating grip of fear that had seized me. Rushing into the kitchen, I found it empty, the remnants of our festive baking abandoned on the counter. Calls of Mom? Dad? Echoed unanswered through the house, each empty room amplifying the growing sense of unease. The silence was deafening, broken only by the frantic thumping of my own heart. Desperate for reassurance, I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsily punching in my mother's number. The shrill ringing tone seemed to pierce the silence, each unanswered ring ratcheting up the tension. Where were they? Why weren't they answering? A wave of nausea washed over me, a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. Just as I was about to give up, the ringing stopped, replaced by the static of a dropped call. Relief, fleeting and fragile, washed over me. They were okay. They had to be. Driven by a desperate need to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the house, I threw on my coat and rushed outside. The cold night air hit me like a slap, momentarily clearing my head. Snow crunched under my feet as I scanned the street, hoping for a glimpse of my parents returning home. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, the festive lights from neighboring houses doing little to penetrate the growing darkness. Returning inside, I found myself drawn back to the wooden box. Against my better judgment, I reached out and picked up the ornament. It was surprisingly heavy in my hand, the metal icy cold against my skin. The gemstones seemed to throb faintly, casting a crimson reflection on my palm. A strange energy seemed to emanate from it, drawing me in, whispering promises of forgotten memories and unsettling truths. The scratching sound from the attic returned, more insistent now, accompanied by a soft thump, as if something was moving around up there. A faint melody drifted down from the attic, barely audible above the sound of my own ragged breathing. It was a music box tune, childlike and innocent, yet twisted into something chilling by the context. The notes hung in the air, sharp and clear, each one a hammer blow to my already frayed nerves. The melody was vaguely familiar, a long-forgotten tune from my childhood. The combination of the music, the cold, and the oppressive atmosphere was too much to bear. As I turned to flee, a picture frame on the mantelpiece caught my eye. It was a photo of me as a child, standing in front of a Christmas tree, my eyes wide with wonder as I held a familiar-looking silver ornament. The same ornament that lay nestled in the wooden box, the same blood-red gemstone staring back at me across the years. And then it hit me. The memory, buried deep within my subconscious, surfaced with a rush of icy terror. The music box, the ornament, the unsettling feeling of familiarity. Panic seized me, raw and primal. I scrambled for the front door, fumbling with the lock, my fingers numb and clumsy. A wave of dizziness hit me, and for a moment the world spun, the Christmas lights blurring into streaks of color. As I finally managed to get the door open, a blast of icy wind hit me, momentarily clearing the fog of fear, and then I heard it. A voice, soft as a whisper, yet clear as a bell, coming from right behind me. "Where do you think you're going? The fun has just begun." The blood ran cold in my veins, the breath catching in my throat. My body, paralyzed by terror, refused to obey my mind's desperate commands to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there like a deer in headlights. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, I turned, my eyes dreading what awaited them. There, framed in the doorway, stood a figure shrouded in shadow. The faint glow of the Christmas lights glinted off something in its hand, the silver snowflake ornament, the ruby at its center pulsing with an eerie light. It swayed slightly, the music box melody growing louder, more menacing, each note a tiny shard of ice piercing my heart. "We've been waiting for you," the voice whispered again, closer now, sending shivers down my spine. "It's been a long time." The voice, it sounded familiar, like a half-remembered lullaby, a chilling echo from the depths of my subconscious. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed something scattered on the floor leading from the living room towards the attic door. They were photographs, torn from their frames, scattered like fallen leaves, and in each one, a younger version of me, smiling naively, holding the cursed ornament. The photos closer to the attic door were more recent, capturing moments of joy, of laughter, of family gatherings. But as my gaze traveled towards the living room, the smiles in the photos grew strained, the eyes holding a flicker of fear, mirroring the terror that now consumed me. It was as if the camera had captured the slow, insidious creep of dread, the unseen presence worming its way into our lives, frame by chilling frame. The music box melody reached a crescendo, the notes twisting into a discordant shriek that reverberated through the house. The figure in the doorway took a step forward, the shadow stretching, reaching for me like a grasping hand. Driven by a primal instinct to survive, I bolted. I didn't know where I was going, but anywhere was better than here, anywhere but within reach of that chilling presence. My feet pounded on the stairs, the wooden steps groaning under my weight, each creak echoing the frantic beat of my heart. The attic door loomed at the top of the stairs, slightly ajar, the music box melody spilling out into the hallway like toxic smoke. A memory flickered in my mind, a whispered story from my grandmother about a forgotten Christmas ritual, a malevolent spirit bound to a silver ornament, a gateway between worlds opened only on the eve of the holiday. Suddenly, I understood. This wasn't just about me, it was about my family, about the generations who had come before, about a legacy of fear and darkness woven into the very fabric of our Christmases. And I, the latest in a long line of unsuspecting participants, was about to become another victim. Reaching the top of the stairs, I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. What awaited me inside? The unknown, however terrifying, held a strange allure, a desperate hope that understanding that facing the source of my terror might somehow set me free. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door. The attic, usually a dusty haven of forgotten memories, was bathed in an eerie, flickering light emanating from a single oil lamp hanging from a rafter. And there, in the center of the room, surrounded by a circle of candles, stood my family. Their eyes were vacant, their faces pale and drawn, their bodies swaying rhythmically to the haunting melody of the music box. And levitating above an ancient leather-bound book spinning slowly in midair was the silver snowflake ornament, its ruby heart pulsing with an unholy light. As I watched in horror, the figure from the doorway stepped into the circle, its features still obscured by shadow, and reached out a gloved hand towards my family. "Don't worry," the voice whispered, its tone laced with a chilling amusement. "There's room for one more." The scene before me, lit by the flickering candlelight and the malevolent glow of the ornament, was like something ripped from a nightmare. My family, their faces blank masks of their former selves, swayed in unison, their movements mechanical, their eyes devoid of recognition. A cold, hard knot of terror tightened in my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. The figure turned towards me, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something in its eyes, a glint of cruel amusement that sent shivers down my spine. It was then I understood. This entity, this thing that had haunted our family for generations, it fed on fear, on belief. It thrived in the shadows, its power amplified by our terror. My legs trembled, threatening to give way beneath the weight of generations of fear. Was this to be my fate? To be trapped forever in this attic, a prisoner in my own home, forced to dance to the tune of a malevolent spirit? No, I refused to give in. I had to fight for myself, for my family, for the memory of Christmases past before the shadows had crept in. Closing my eyes, I dug deep within myself, searching for a spark of defiance, a glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming dread. And as the music box melody reached a fever pitch, a memory surfaced. My grandmother's voice filled with a quiet strength, whispering an ancient rhyme, a protection against the darkness. It was a long shot, a whisper of forgotten magic against a force as old as time. But it was all I had. Opening my eyes, I focused on the silver ornament, the source of the entity's power, and began to speak the ancient words, my voice trembling at first, then growing stronger with each syllable. The air crackled with energy. The candles flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. The music box stuttered, the melody faltering, the notes turning discordant. The figure in the center of the circle hissed, its form flickering, its grip on my family weakening. The rhyme, a forgotten echo of a time when magic still held sway, seemed to resonate through the room, pushing back the darkness, chipping away at the entity's power. But would it be enough to break free from its grasp? The fate of my family and my own sanity hung precariously in the balance.